Hello and welcome to the Two Dyspraxics, episode 5. I'm Matthew Munson.
And I'm Barbara Neill.
And today we're going to be talking about the Equality Act, or rather asking you some questions about it. Not in a quizzy sort of way, but to kind of see what you think about it, the public.
Well, I think first of all, do you know what the Equality Act is? Are you aware of the Equality Act and how it relates to people who have dyspraxia?
Because we were talking about this today actually, and we've deliberately not researched the subject in any great detail because we kind of wanted to present it as kind of laymen, lay people, I guess is the official gender neutral word there. Because we've come across the term in some use, but we kind of wanted to see how it's kind of filtered through to the general public, and obviously we're part of the general public, and I don't know, from my point of view, I've not really heard too much about it being talked about in a personal setting.
No, likewise. And I mean, the way I see it, the Equality Act is supposed to be there to, well, actually, you explained it very well, didn't you? But it's supposed to be there to help people who have disabilities.
I knew you were going to put me on the spot with that. I was trying to remember actually as you were talking. It's basically, from how I've had it explained to me by someone else, was that it's basically there to give everyone equal opportunities, equal access to goods and services, to make the playing field equal in terms of access, not in terms of outcome, because everyone's outcome will be different. But if you're going to be going to a shop to buy a widget, everyone's ability to go into that shop to buy the widget should be equal, whether you've got a wheelchair or you've got dyspraxia and you have a perception issue with actually kind of balance and whatever, or whether you're neurotypical and have no balance issues, we should all be able to go into the shop equally to buy the widget on equal terms. So whether that's special adaptations in some way for us, I'm not saying I have the answers at the moment, but I'm kind of posing the point now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be very interested to find out what other people think about the Equality Act and how it can benefit us, because it's dyspraxia is covered by the Equality Act, so therefore it's designed to benefit us in some way. But to be honest with you, I'm not really sure how it can be used. I mean, the obvious one is in employment terms, but it's not everybody who is looking for a job.
No, quite. It affects young and old kind of equal terms, and we're kind of looking at it from being both kind of working age adults. We're kind of looking at it from the employment perspective. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Not everyone's kind of needing it in that way.
No, I mean, how could it be applied? I was thinking in terms of some of the biggest problems I have personally are just keeping track of things, keeping things organised. I mean, think about maybe things like television licences. If, for example, you were to forget, or I don't know, car tax, all sorts of things like that. If you forget it, could you, if you were to be sort of challenged, I suppose, by the DVLA or by the TV licensing authority or whoever, would you be able to cite the Equality Act and say, well, in actual fact, I wasn't given the opportunity to,
in a format I'm comfortable with? Yeah. I see your point.
Now, the difficulty with that is whether or not you divulge that you're dyspraxic, and that is very, very complicated, I think, because I wouldn't think of contacting the TV licensing agency and saying, oh, by the way, I'm dyspraxic, because it's completely irrelevant unless I have a problem.
Well, exactly. I think that's the thing, isn't it, though? It's because we've got, the term we were using earlier was a non-visible disability, and what I mean by that is it's not a physical, like if you're in a wheelchair or if you're on crutches or something like that, that's a very visible, physical, immediately recognisable disability. But of course with ours, you can't see it, there's no kind of shape or anything specific to it. So sometimes if we don't tell someone that we're dyspraxic, we can on occasions pass for neurotypical. It has been known, pass for neurotypical. So people will just assume we're, and I'm not going to use the word normal because I hate that word, but that we're normal, we're neurotypical. Well, actually we're not. We think in a different way, but oftentimes I think organisations and people can kind of forget that we approach things in a different way, and perhaps not think to make reasonable adjustments. And one question I keep asking myself is, am I my own worst enemy because I sometimes try to act neurotypical, or sometimes not think to declare my dyspraxia? Am I actually making the rod for my own back by not speaking about it more, not kind of admitting it more, and it's kind of a chicken and the egg situation. So I see it. I don't know about you and your experiences.
Well, I think sometimes it's probably more appropriate than others to divulge the fact. I say divulge as though it's some kind of guilty secret.
I know what you mean.
I suppose maybe sometimes that's how it feels.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's more appropriate than others because, for example, to go back to the TV licence, because I can't think of anything else, or maybe car tax or whatever, but something that has to be done, it has to be returned, it has to be kept. You have to maintain it. If, for example, it would be nothing unusual at all for me to either forget I haven't sent it, or lose it, or just totally go out of my mind. So I think maybe under those kind of circumstances, would it be appropriate to not wait until you come unstuck, because you're not going to know that you can come unstuck. But, but then when there's lots of, well, you haven't completed this, you haven't returned that, so until you're sort of actually in some sort of trouble because you haven't done it, and then say, well, actually, I have dyspraxia, and at that point, I think it might be appropriate for us to get some sort of benefit from the Equality Act, and say, well, it's not appropriate to divulge it all the time, because it's just not, every time you apply for something, send in a form, by the way, I'm dyspraxic, it's just not going to happen, is it?
Exactly, if you're constantly having to say about your dyspraxia, it would make me feel perhaps a little isolated in a way, because I'm constantly having to say, by the way, I'm slightly different because of my dyspraxia. It's how people might perceive that. I don't see myself as different. I've just got a condition that means I have to look at things a different way. But people might. It's difficult to know how to explain, but almost kind of, because I'm saying it constantly, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I have to constantly kind of parrot, oh, hello, I'm Matthew Munson. Oh, by the way, I'm dyspraxic. It becomes an automatic reflex after a while.
Yeah, and that's not. It's not. I don't. For me personally, I wouldn't mind. Oh yes, I'm dyspraxic. Everybody, look, this is what a dyspraxic person looks like. I really don't feel inclined to do that.
No.
And I don't feel at all like that. But when I think we encounter difficulties because of the dyspraxia, then the Equality Act really ought to be there to help us.
But then is it visible enough at the moment? Is it being talked about enough and promoted enough so that the layman kind of can use it? I don't know. I'm asking the question slightly rhetorically in the hope that this might spark a debate on YouTube and Facebook and stuff. So perhaps we should kind of.
Well, I'd be very interested to know, first of all, if anybody out there has had any personal experience of using the Equality Act in any way. Also, what was that experience, and was it a successful one? Under what circumstances would it be appropriate to call in the help, if you like, of the Equality Act? Because, to be honest with you, I really don't know. Apart from employment is the very obvious one. I think that's the one that people tend to leap on, but there are lots of other subtle situations that dyspraxia can affect, and as we were saying before, it's not appropriate to declare ourselves dyspraxic every moment of the day. So that simply isn't going to happen. But I do wonder if perhaps the Equality Act really ought to be there, and we ought to be aware of the fact that it's there to help us when things go wrong.
Also making sure other people are aware of it, I guess, as well, employers and shops and whatever.
Certainly.
And how do we go about making sure that is the case? Is it down to us to make sure that's the case, or is there another way that it should be? It should work. It's another question to pose.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to have a debate on that. So
kind of, this is going up on YouTube, isn't it? So kind of there'll be comments kind of down there, just under the camera. About there. Oh, yeah, about there. Where Bar was pointing.
Hang on, I'll just try and get my dodgy.
Yeah, Bar's got a bad hand. Kind of where Bar was pointing, kind of there. Be there. So comments, please, in that. Or we'll obviously put it on Facebook as well. We'll share it on there. So we kind of welcome a bit of discussion on this and see what people think about the Equality Act and how it can help, hopefully.
Yeah, certainly. And if anybody's experience is not a positive one, then perhaps we can do something between us, come up with some way that we can suggest positive ways of making changes, so it really does benefit us.
On that controversial note, thank you for watching episode 5 of the Two Dyspraxics. Until next time, farewell.